Welcome to a story of transformation, second chances, and the power of kindness. Today, we dive into the life of Valerie Johnson, a successful CEO who goes undercover at her own luxury hotel, hoping to uncover why her guests are leaving less than stellar reviews. Disguised as an everyday guest, Valerie experiences firsthand the warmth of Hannah, a receptionist demoted for a minor mistake, and the icy indifference of Megan, a receptionist who judges guests based on appearances. But as Valerie reveals her true identity, the hotel is thrown into a whirlwind of change. Staff are pushed to confront their own biases, leaders are reshuffled, and each person must choose whether they'll rise to the challenge or get left behind. Will Megan embrace a new path of empathy? Can Hannah, with Valerie's guidance, transform the hotel into a place of genuine welcome for all? Stay tuned as we unravel a story that proves even the smallest acts of kindness can transform lives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what you think will happen next. The hotel lobby stretched out before Valerie Johnson like a theater stage. Every detail polished to perfection. Every design choice intentional. Smooth marble floors, towering glass windows letting in the soft afternoon light, and a steady murmur of voices bouncing between soft jazz notes. This was her creation. It had taken years of dedication and sleepless nights to build her chain into something that radiated class and warmth. But recent guest reviews had told a different story, one of cold treatment, rushed interactions, and an unsettling sense of exclusion, especially for guests who didn't meet a certain appearance. At 60, Valerie was no stranger to challenges in business. She'd faced boardroom battles, economic slumps, and even the unexpected costs of renovating a dozen properties to match evolving trends. But this, losing the trust of her guests, struck her on a personal level. If her hotels couldn't maintain an atmosphere of welcome and warmth, then what was all her hard work for? Today, she was here undercover to experience the guest treatment herself. Dressed in modest clothing, simple slacks, a soft blue blouse that had seen better days, and scuffed walking shoes, she carried a small duffel bag that gave her the appearance of a casual traveler. Valerie knew the power of perception. She had learned it long ago. Appearances shaped how others responded, and today, she wanted to see the truth of how guests were treated without the status and stature her name typically brought. Stepping through the doors, she felt an instant blend of pride and apprehension. The lobby was abuzz with people, a group of tourists leafing through pamphlets by the concierge desk, a well-dressed couple snapping selfies near the grand chandelier, and a few businessmen hunched over laptops by the cafe. Valerie took a breath, reminding herself of her mission. She wasn't here as the CEO, she was here as Valerie, the guest. As she approached the front desk, Valerie noticed two receptionists stationed at either end. On the right was Megan Lewis, a striking young woman with sharp features, a stylish bob haircut, and a pair of manicured nails that clicked quietly on the counter as she scrolled through her phone, glancing up only when absolutely necessary. Her face wore a look of practiced indifference. To the left was Hannah Brooks, with warm, welcoming eyes that contrasted against Megan's coolness. Hannah wore her uniform with a touch of personality, a delicate gold pin on her lapel. A subtle detail, but one that hinted at someone who valued the little things. Valerie noticed Hannah moving with practiced ease, her smile genuine as she finished up with a guest who thanked her warmly. The woman left with a smile, her eyes softened as if a weight had lifted. Valerie stepped up to the counter, taking a deep breath as she approached Megan. Megan gave her a cursory glance before her lips tightened slightly, as if assessing her and finding her wanting. There was a flicker of disdain, quick, but noticeable enough to sting. "Can I help you?" Megan asked, her voice flat and distinctly unenthusiastic. Valerie gave a polite nod. "Yes, I'd like to check in, please. I have a reservation under Johnson." Megan's gaze flitted down to the duffel bag hanging from Valerie's shoulder, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. She didn't check the system. Instead, she responded, "Are you sure you have the right place? There are some nice budget hotels down the road if you're interested." Valerie was taken aback. In all her years, she had never experienced such blatant dismissal. She held back her reaction, staying in character. "No, I believe I'm in the right place," she said calmly, adding a note of confidence that surprised even herself. Before Megan could respond, Hannah stepped in from the left, glancing first at Valerie, then at Megan. Her expression was professionally neutral, but softened by an undeniable warmth as she smiled at Valerie. "Good afternoon, ma'am," she said, her tone inviting. "I'd be happy to help you with your check-in." Megan rolled her eyes subtly and resumed her scrolling as if Valerie was no longer worth her time. Valerie turned to Hannah, feeling a wave of relief. "Thank you, Hannah," she said, glancing at the name tag. She offered her ID and credit card, watching Hannah's practiced movements as she processed the check-in with grace. "We're delighted to have you here with us, Mrs. Johnson," Hannah said, handing over the keycard with a sincere smile. "Please don't hesitate to let us know if there's anything you need during your stay." The words were simple, but Valerie could feel the genuine care behind them. Here was someone who, despite her recent demotion, carried out her role with a quiet pride. Valerie felt her earlier frustration with Megan dissipate, replaced with a growing admiration for Hannah's professionalism. She gave Hannah a slight nod of appreciation, a silent promise to remember her kindness. Valerie made her way through the elegant corridors, taking in every detail with a mix of pride and scrutiny. From the ambient lighting that set a calm, warm tone to the plush carpet that muffled footsteps, it was clear her hotel still held its charm. Yet, beneath the surface of that charm, there were cracks. In her suite, she set down her bag and took a moment to inspect her surroundings. The room was beautiful, a sweeping view of the city skyline, tasteful artwork on the walls, and a bed that looked like it could hold a cloud. She could see why guests might initially be taken by the beauty, but she also knew that no amount of elegance in the decor could make up for a cold reception. Settling into an armchair by the window, Valerie mentally replayed her interaction with Megan. The subtle disdain, the implication that she didn't belong. It disturbed her more than she cared to admit. Megan's attitude wasn't just an isolated flaw, it represented something much bigger. If her staff were judging guests based on appearances, how many people had left feeling unwelcome? How many people had left without the comfort and respect her brand promised? She glanced at her watch. It was nearly dinner time, which gave her another opportunity to observe. She made her way down to the lobby restaurant, noticing the mix of travelers seated throughout. From families to lone diners with their noses in books or screens. She could feel the undercurrent of warmth from the staff who moved quickly to accommodate everyone's needs, and the restaurant manager. An attentive woman named Jill greeted her with a polite nod and seated her near the window. As Valerie enjoyed her meal, a perfectly cooked salmon, accompanied by an elegantly plated side of roasted vegetables, she kept her focus on the staff's interactions with guests. Her waiter was courteous, if a bit hurried, and Jill occasionally swept the room with a careful eye, stepping in when things got too busy. She noticed, however, a distinct coolness when Megan came into the restaurant for her break, ignoring guests completely as she made her way to a table. Valerie observed each of these interactions with a growing understanding that her hotel's issues ran deeper than she'd anticipated. They weren't about decor or amenities, they were about the very culture of service. Back in her room, Valerie took time to jot down notes. She had seen enough for one day to know that changes were desperately needed, not just on the surface, but at the very core of her team's approach to hospitality. She knew that fixing these issues would require not only addressing individual behaviors, like Megan's, but also fostering a culture that prioritized empathy over judgment. Valerie couldn't shake her conversation with Hannah, the receptionist who had shown such genuine warmth. Here was someone who seemed to embody all the values her hotel chain had once been known for. She remembered how Hannah had taken over her check-in without hesitation, offering her a level of respect that had made her feel instantly welcome. Hannah's humility and quiet dedication had left a strong impression, and Valerie wondered if this young woman, recently demoted, might deserve more. Before turning in for the night, Valerie sent a quick email to her corporate team. initiating a thorough review of current service standards and personnel. We'll provide further details in due course. As she lay down, her mind whirred with ideas and questions, but one thing was certain. This visit had just begun, and Valerie had much more to uncover. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across Valerie's room. She awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. Today, she intended to observe everything closely: the staff, the guests, the atmosphere of the hotel as a whole. Each interaction she'd witnessed yesterday had already painted a complicated picture, but Valerie knew she was only scratching the surface. After breakfast, she positioned herself in the lobby, blending in among the guests by sitting on one of the soft couches in a corner, a travel magazine open on her lap. She watched as a diverse stream of people walked in and out. She noticed some employees moving briskly, others meandering or chatting behind the counters. Her eyes fell on Hannah, stationed at the front desk. Hannah seemed fully absorbed in her work, moving between guests with ease. She smiled warmly at each one, ensuring they felt valued no matter how they looked or what they needed. It was a quiet, understated kindness, the kind that made people feel at ease. As she watched, an elderly couple approached the desk, struggling with heavy bags. Hannah was quick to notice and sprang into action, offering to help them with their luggage, much to their relief and gratitude. Valerie observed the whole interaction with a sense of satisfaction. Hannah was proving to be a true asset to the hotel, despite her recent demotion. In stark contrast, Megan stood a few feet away, attending to another guest with what seemed like forced politeness. Her expression remained guarded, and her gaze flicked over each person as though assessing their worth before she committed to a smile. At one point, a family with 2 young children walked in, looking slightly harried from their travels. Megan's eyes drifted from their wrinkled clothes to their worn luggage, and she offered a thin, disinterested smile, turning back to her computer almost as soon as she'd greeted them. Valerie felt a pang of frustration as she observed Megan's behavior. Every guest who walked through the doors deserved respect, no matter how they looked. Megan's actions made Valerie wonder, was this attitude affecting others on the team? How many guests had walked away feeling overlooked, or even belittled? That evening, Valerie decided to wind down in the hotel's small but elegant gym. It was a place meant to offer guests relaxation, a quiet retreat after a long day. As she entered, she saw a familiar figure already there: Hannah, who was slowly pedaling on one of the stationary bikes, her expression thoughtful. Valerie moved to a nearby machine, nodding in greeting. "Good evening, Hannah," she said, keeping her tone casual. Hannah looked up, clearly surprised to see her again. "Oh, hello. You're enjoying the gym too, I see." She offered a friendly smile, seeming genuinely pleased. For a moment, they exercised in silence. Then, perhaps feeling more at ease, Hannah opened up. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she began quietly, "about my work here. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm really making a difference. It's not always easy to give my best when it feels like it doesn't matter." Valerie raised an eyebrow, surprised by Hannah's honesty. She decided to tread carefully, sensing there was more Hannah wanted to share. "I understand," Valerie replied, her tone inviting. "It must be challenging, especially with the demotion you mentioned." Hannah nodded slowly, a hint of sadness flickering across her face. "Yes, I've been with this hotel for over 5 years, worked my way up from the bottom. But one small mistake." She hesitated, clearly torn. "It was a misunderstanding, really, but it seemed to be enough for them to knock me down. I know I'm not perfect, but I genuinely care about the people who come here. I just wish that mattered more." Valerie felt a swell of admiration for Hannah. "You know," she said gently, "sometimes the people who care the most have to face the hardest trials. But those trials don't define you. If anything, they prepare you for something greater." Hannah looked thoughtful, her expression softening as she seemed to mull over Valerie's words. "I never thought of it that way. I suppose I just want to know that what I do matters, even if it's just making someone stay a bit more pleasant." "Believe me, it does," Valerie assured her. "More than you might realize. They finished their workout in companionable silence. For Valerie, it was a moment of clarity. Hannah wasn't just any employee. She represented what Valerie had always hoped her hotels could embody: kindness, patience, and the desire to make others feel welcome. If the hotel was to return to its original values, it needed people like Hannah in roles of influence. The following morning, Valerie decided to observe Megan more closely, hoping to understand what drove her apparent indifference. Megan's attitude wasn't unique. Valerie knew that many employees in the service industry became jaded over time. It was easy to fall into the trap of judging guests or viewing them as mere transactions rather than individuals with stories and needs. Megan was helping a guest, a young man with a worn backpack and a tired look about him. He asked politely if there were any rooms available for an extended stay. Megan glanced him up and down, clearly assessing his less-than-formal attire, and gave a tight-lipped smile. "We're fully booked," she said without checking the system. The man looked crestfallen but nodded, thanking her anyway and turning to leave. At that moment, Hannah came over, overhearing part of the conversation. She glanced at Megan, then at the young man, and quickly checked the reservation system herself. "Actually, we do have availability," she called out after him. The man's face lit up with relief as he turned back, grateful that someone had taken the time to double-check. Valerie, watching from across the lobby, noted Megan's visible irritation as she moved aside for Hannah to complete the reservation. Megan's irritation wasn't lost on Valerie, but the guest left satisfied, a testament to Hannah's commitment to putting people first. As Megan watched the interaction, she seemed to grow thoughtful, a faint frown creasing her forehead. Valerie could sense a change in her, a tiny flicker of something close to self-awareness. Perhaps seeing Hannah's kindness so publicly displayed was beginning to make her question her own approach. That night, as Valerie reviewed her notes, she reflected on what she'd learned so far. Megan's aloofness was more than an isolated attitude. It reflected a culture that might be festering under the surface. She considered the countless guests Megan and others like her might have pushed away, all because of unspoken judgments. Valerie felt a firm resolve building within her. She would make changes, but they wouldn't be cosmetic. They would go to the heart of the hotel's culture, reshaping it to prioritize empathy and inclusivity. Hannah's kindness had stood out like a beacon, a reminder of why Valerie had started this business. It wasn't to create luxurious buildings, it was to offer a place where everyone, regardless of appearance or background, felt respected and valued. Valerie knew that if her hotel chain was to thrive, she would need people like Hannah leading by example. But first, she would need to address the attitudes of those like Megan. She made a note to arrange a one-on-one meeting with Megan, hoping to understand her better. Perhaps there was a reason behind Megan's behavior, something that could be changed with the right encouragement. As she closed her notebook, Valerie sent a quick message to her management team. "We're initiating a series of service training sessions, focused on empathy, communication, and customer-first values. Prepare the team." Her message was short, but it carried the weight of her commitment. Valerie wasn't going to let her business slip further from her ideals. Tomorrow, she would reveal her identity and start the process of real change. The next morning, Valerie arrived in the lobby early, feeling a renewed sense of determination. She was prepared to further observe the service culture among her staff, and with her unassuming attire, she still blended in as an ordinary guest. She took a seat in a quiet corner, close enough to hear and see the interactions between the reception staff and the guests. A young couple arrived at the front desk, dragging several heavy suitcases and looking visibly tired. Valerie watched as Megan gave them a quick once-over glance, her expression cool. With a sigh, Megan tapped her nails on the counter, her impatience barely hidden as the couple struggled with their reservation details. "Did you book through our website?" Megan asked, her voice edged with irritation. The couple nodded, fumbling for their email confirmation. Megan didn't offer to help, and her body language suggested that she was simply waiting for them to resolve things on their own. Valerie couldn't help but notice how each forced smile and curt answer pushed the guests further into discomfort. Valerie's gaze shifted to Hannah, who was helping another guest at the opposite end of the counter. This guest, a woman with a young child, appeared frazzled, her toddler squirming restlessly. Hannah bent down, her voice gentle as she smiled at the child and reassured the mother. "It's always a bit overwhelming when you first arrive, isn't it?" Hannah said, her voice warm and genuine. "We're here to make things easier. Would you like some water or a snack for the little one while you check in?" The mother looked up in relief, her shoulders relaxing as Hannah took charge of the process with patience and ease. Within minutes, the mother and child were on their way to their room, visibly uplifted by the kindness they'd just received. Valerie's respect for Hannah grew even deeper. Her calm, reassuring presence was exactly what guests needed, and it contrasted sharply with Megan's cold demeanor. If only everyone on the team could learn from Hannah's example, the hotel's reputation would turn around in no time. Later that evening, Valerie decided to take advantage of the hotel's spa, hoping for a chance to unwind and perhaps run into more staff members in a casual setting. To her surprise, she found Hannah sitting alone in the spa's relaxation lounge, sipping a cup of tea. Hannah seemed lost in thought, a hint of melancholy in her expression. Valerie approached her, and Hannah's face lit up in recognition. "Ms. Johnson! I didn't expect to see you here. I thought I'd try out the spa services," Valerie replied with a warm smile. "And please just call me Valerie." Hannah's face softened, and she gestured for Valerie to join her. "It's wonderful here, isn't it? I often come here to relax after a long shift." They sat in silence for a few moments, the quiet hum of the spa soothing around them. Then, as if drawn by Valerie's calm presence, Hannah sighed and spoke. "You know, Valerie, sometimes I wonder if all my efforts here make a difference. I used to be a senior manager, but one mistake changed everything. I was demoted, and now I'm just another receptionist. I still care about the guests, but it's hard to give my best when it feels like it doesn't matter." Valerie listened intently, struck by Hannah's vulnerability. She understood that longing to make a difference, to feel valued in one's work. She realized that for Hannah, this job was more than just a paycheck. It was a calling. "Everyone makes mistakes," Valerie replied gently, "but what matters is how we learn from them. Your kindness, your dedication. Those are things that can't be taught, and they do make a difference even if you don't always see it." Hannah's eyes filled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Valerie. That's exactly what I needed to hear." She hesitated, then continued, "I've thought about leaving. Maybe I could find somewhere else, where I could grow again. But then, I wonder if I'm just giving up." Valerie's heart went out to her. She knew what it was like to doubt oneself, to feel undervalued, and she recognized something powerful in Hannah's story, an unwavering spirit that deserved more than a demotion. Valerie's respect for her deepened, and she made a silent promise to herself. Hannah would get the chance to show her true potential, and she would be recognized for the invaluable impact she brought to the guests. The following day, Valerie felt ready to make her first official move. She'd gathered enough insight and was prepared to start making changes, starting with a private conversation with Jacob, her chief assistant, who was tasked with maintaining day-to-day operations at this particular hotel. After setting an appointment with him, she arrived at his office, finally in her business attire, a polished look that hinted at her true position. Jacob looked up as she entered, surprise flashing across his face as he registered her presence and realized who she was. "Miss Johnson, I didn't expect you," he stammered, quickly standing. "I'm here to discuss the current state of the hotel," Valerie replied, her tone measured. "I've been observing for a few days as a guest, and I must say I'm concerned with what I've seen." Jacob swallowed, nodding. "I assure you we do our best to maintain standards. But I wasn't aware that you'd be checking in personally." Valerie's gaze remained steady. "That's exactly why I chose to remain incognito. The truth is, our staff's attitude is becoming an issue. I've encountered some concerning behavior, specifically from one of the front desk staff." Jacob shifted uncomfortably, a hint of defensiveness in his voice. "I assume you're referring to Megan?" She's a hard worker, if a bit direct. Directness is one thing, Valerie countered, but dismissing guests and judging them based on appearances is something else entirely. I need to know why this attitude has gone unchecked, and why a genuinely kind and dedicated employee like Hannah has been relegated to a position where her talents are underutilized. Jacob blinked, taken aback. With all due respect, Mrs. Johnson, Hannah made a mistake. There's a hierarchy for a reason. Valerie's voice remained calm but firm. Hierarchy should never come at the expense of quality or empathy. The reviews have spoken, Jacob. Our guests don't feel valued, and that reflects on the entire team, not just one receptionist. This hotel was built to be a place where everyone, regardless of appearance, feels welcome. Jacob looked down, visibly chagrined. I understand. I'll address it. Valerie leaned forward, her gaze intense. You will indeed. Starting today, I'd like you to work a week in Hannah's position at the front desk. It's important to understand firsthand the value of that role. And as for Megan, I want a performance review scheduled immediately. I intend to speak with her myself. Jacob looked stunned, but he nodded, recognizing the finality in her voice. Valerie's mission had truly begun, and she was determined to hold everyone accountable for their role in restoring her hotel's values. Valerie spent the remainder of the day finalizing her plans to bring a cultural shift to the hotel. She knew this process wouldn't be easy or quick, but it was necessary. The front desk, she decided, would undergo retraining, focusing on customer respect and emotional intelligence. From the top executives to the newest hires, she wanted everyone to understand that true hospitality went far beyond surface-level courtesies. At the end of the day, she found herself back at the front desk, watching as Hannah handled a last-minute check-in with her signature warmth. Megan was standing nearby, her eyes flitting over the guests, and though her expression was unreadable, Valerie noticed something, a hint of introspection in her gaze, as if her earlier encounters had stirred something inside her. As she left the lobby, Valerie felt a renewed sense of hope. This hotel, with all its flaws and challenges, still had the potential to become the welcoming haven she'd always envisioned. With dedicated staff like Hannah leading by example and Megan possibly beginning to question her own biases, the first seeds of change had been planted. Tomorrow, she would reveal her true identity to the entire staff and outline her vision for the future. And as she walked back to her suite, she was filled with a quiet confidence, knowing she was on the path to transforming not just her hotel, but the lives of everyone within it. The next morning, Valerie dressed with extra care, selecting a sleek, tailored suit that reflected both her position and her purpose. Today, she was done blending in. It was time to reveal her identity and lay out her vision for the hotel. As she fastened her cufflinks, she felt a calm determination settle over her. She'd seen enough to know exactly where the hotel's culture had gone wrong, and how she could begin setting it right. She arrived in the lobby, flanked by a couple of her senior executives and her assistant, Jacob, who, after their meeting yesterday, seemed more humbled and aware of his responsibilities. Jacob's earlier resistance had softened, and though he'd been somewhat reluctant about his new assignment at the front desk, he now understood it was a necessary step toward change. As they walked into the lobby, Valerie saw the usual morning activity unfolding. Guests lined up at the check-in counter, a few staff members moving briskly between duties, and the air buzzing with the hum of travel excitement and anticipation. But there was a subtle shift in energy as her presence turned heads. Employees and guests alike began noticing her, whispering among themselves as they recognized the poised woman at the center of the group. Megan was at her post, standing rigidly behind the counter, and Hannah was assisting a guest with her usual warm smile. Hannah looked up and froze when she saw Valerie, her eyes widening with surprise and a flicker of confusion. The rest of the staff began murmuring, sensing something significant was about to happen. Valerie stepped forward, smiling at the staff and guests who had gathered out of curiosity. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice calm and resonant. "Some of you may already know who I am. For those who don't, My name is Valerie Johnson, and I am the CEO of this hotel chain." A wave of shock swept through the room, followed by a hushed silence. Megan's face paled, her earlier confidence slipping as she realized that the guest she'd dismissed as an outsider was, in fact, her employer. Hannah looked at Valerie with a mixture of surprise and awe, her expression quickly transforming into one of respect. Valerie took a slow look around the lobby, her gaze encompassing each staff member. "Over the past few days, I've had the privilege of observing our team firsthand, experiencing the same services and interactions as our guests. What I witnessed has given me both encouragement and concern." She turned toward Megan, who looked as if she wanted to shrink into the floor. "In this business, every guest who walks through our doors deserves to feel valued. Judging them based on appearances or deciding who is worthy of our best service and who isn't has no place here." Megan's cheeks flushed, her eyes downcast as the impact of her actions settled on her. She opened her mouth to speak but seemed at a loss for words. Valerie continued, her tone softer but firm. "Our mission is to create an environment of welcome and respect, not just for the guests we deem important, but for everyone. This place should feel like a home for every person who enters. That was my goal when I founded this company, and I intend to restore that vision." Then, Valerie turned to face Hannah, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Hannah, your kindness and dedication have shown me what true hospitality looks like. You've treated each guest with respect and patience, embodying the values I hold most dear. As of today, I'd like to offer you the position of assistant to the CEO, where I believe you'll have the chance to inspire others, as you've inspired me." The room erupted into murmurs of surprise and admiration as staff members exchanged glances. Hannah, visibly moved, looked at Valerie, her eyes brimming with gratitude. "Thank you, Miss Valerie," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what to say. I've always cared about this place, and to know that it means something." She trailed off, taking a deep breath. "Thank you. I won't let you down." As the staff continued to absorb the news, Valerie's assistant, Jacob, cleared his throat, seemingly uncomfortable with the attention he was now receiving. Valerie turned to him, her tone gentle yet unyielding. "Jacob," she began, "our conversation yesterday highlighted some areas for growth, and I want you to experience firsthand what it means to be on the front lines. For the next week, you'll be working alongside the reception team." Jacob's eyes widened in shock, but he quickly composed himself, nodding. "Of course, Ms. Johnson. I understand. I'll do my best." Valerie's gaze softened. "Thank you, Jacob. Remember, this isn't a punishment. It's an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. It's vital that we all understand the value of each position in our hotel, and I believe this experience will help you reconnect with that value." Later that day, Megan found herself alone in one of the staff corridors, grappling with a mixture of shame and regret. Her encounter with Valerie earlier that morning had stirred something deep within her, forcing her to confront a side of herself she'd long ignored. After much hesitation, she approached Hannah, who was in the employee lounge, preparing for her new role. Megan shifted uncomfortably, struggling to find the right words. "Hannah, can I talk to you for a minute?" Hannah looked up, her expression one of polite curiosity. "Of course, Megan. What's on your mind?" Megan took a deep breath. I owe you an apology. And not just you, but the guests too. I was so quick to judge people, to think that only certain guests deserved my respect. But watching you, it made me realize how wrong I've been." Hannah studied her for a moment before nodding. "Thank you, Megan. I know it's not easy to admit when we're wrong. It takes strength." Megan managed a small smile, visibly relieved by Hannah's forgiveness. "You're kind, Hannah, in a way I've never understood. I want to learn. I want to be better, if you're willing to help." Hannah's face softened, and she placed a reassuring hand on Megan's shoulder. "We're all here to learn and grow, Megan. I'm glad you're ready to start." Megan felt a weight lift from her chest. For the first time, she felt a genuine desire to change, not just for the hotel, but for herself. And with Hannah's support, She knew she had a chance to make things right. In the days that followed, Valerie implemented her vision with a clear sense of purpose. Training sessions were held to reinforce the importance of empathy and respect, with Hannah assisting Valerie in crafting workshops that focused on understanding guests' needs and learning to view each person as an individual, not just a transaction. The staff responded with mixed emotions at first, but as they saw Megan's visible efforts to change, a shift began to take place. Megan was no longer the distant, dismissive receptionist. She was an eager learner, willing to engage with guests in a way that was new for her. Slowly, her initial awkwardness melted away, replaced with genuine warmth as she learned from Hannah's example. At the end of the first week, Valerie called a staff meeting. She stood in front of her employees, proud of the strides they'd made in such a short time. "I want to thank each of you for embracing this change," Valerie began, her gaze sweeping across the room. "True hospitality comes from the heart, and I've seen that in each of you this week. You've not only met our guests' needs, but you've done so with respect and kindness. That's the legacy I've always hoped to leave with this hotel." She turned to Hannah, who stood beside her. Hannah has been an inspiration to us all. Her promotion reflects not just her skill, but her heart and her dedication to making every guest feel valued. And I know she'll continue to inspire every one of us to do our best. Hannah smiled, nodding at her colleagues, who applauded her with sincere admiration. Even Megan joined in, her expression one of genuine respect. As the meeting concluded, Valerie felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The hotel she'd built was regaining its true purpose, a place where every guest felt valued and every employee felt empowered to make a difference. The changes took hold gradually, but the results were evident in the reviews and guest feedback. Guests praised the warm, respectful service and the inviting atmosphere, a testament to the hard work of every team member. Valerie's work was far from over, but she knew she'd built a foundation for lasting change. And as she looked around the hotel, watching her team interact with each other and the guests, she felt a renewed sense of hope. This was her vision come to life. Not just a luxury hotel, but a home for all who entered. A place where respect and empathy were woven into every interaction. As she left the lobby that day, Valerie knew she was leaving her legacy in capable hands, with leaders like Hannah to carry forward the values that had always defined her company. Megan's life at the hotel had changed dramatically in the week following Valerie's revelation. Every morning she arrived earlier, determined to break her old habits and approach her role with a new mindset. The training sessions led by Hannah had given her tools and techniques, but she was finding that true change required more than just knowledge. It took humility and genuine self-awareness. One morning, as Megan stood behind the front desk, she noticed a young couple arriving with a baby and several bags. They looked exhausted, their clothes slightly wrinkled, the kind of guests Megan might have once dismissed with little more than a polite nod. But today, she approached them with an open mind. "Welcome to our hotel," Megan said, a sincere smile brightening her face. "It looks like you've had a long trip. Let me help you with your bags. And if there's anything else you need, please don't hesitate to ask." The couple exchanged a surprised glance, clearly not expecting such warmth. "Thank you," the young woman replied, her relief evident. "It's been a rough journey, and we didn't know what to expect when we got here." Megan nodded, guiding them through check-in while offering small courtesies, like providing extra towels and suggesting places in the hotel where they could relax with their child. The simple act of empathy made Megan feel lighter, as if she was truly discovering a new part of herself. As they headed toward the elevators, the young mother paused, glancing back at Megan with a grateful smile. "You don't know how much this means. Thank you for being so kind." Those words resonated with Megan, who felt a warmth spread through her chest. A small but powerful reminder that kindness had an impact beyond what she could see. She was beginning to understand what Hannah and Valerie meant about the deeper value of hospitality. Later that day, during a break, Megan found herself sitting beside Hannah in the employee lounge. She was nervous, unsure how to express her gratitude, but she knew that if she was going to embrace this new path fully, she needed to acknowledge her past. Hannah, Megan began quietly, glancing down at her hands. I've been thinking a lot. I wanted to thank you, not just for how you are with the guests, but for how you've inspired me. I know I wasn't always fair to you or to others, and I'm sorry. Hannah looked at Megan, her eyes kind and understanding. It takes courage to admit that, Megan, she replied. But I'm glad you're here, learning and growing. I always believed you could be a wonderful part of the team, and seeing you change has been inspiring. Megan felt a weight lift from her chest, her gaze meeting Hannah's. I used to think kindness was just part of the job, something that didn't matter if guests didn't notice. But I'm realizing it's so much more than that. It's the foundation of everything we do. Hannah nodded, smiling gently. Exactly. Kindness is contagious. It has a way of spreading, creating a place where people feel valued. And when our guests feel that, it changes their entire experience. As they returned to their shifts, Megan felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Pride in her work. Not for the image it projected, but for the good it could bring to others. For the first time, she felt she was part of something meaningful. While Megan worked on her personal transformation, Hannah thrived in her new role as Valerie's assistant. Every day brought new challenges, from handling difficult guest requests to managing hotel logistics, and each moment presented an opportunity for growth. Valerie was a patient mentor, guiding Hannah with insights that came from years of experience. One afternoon, Valerie called Hannah into her office to discuss the latest guest feedback. The two sat across from each other, Valerie's gaze thoughtful as she studied the reports. Hannah, Valerie began, her tone both encouraging and reflective, you've been doing an excellent job managing guest relations. I can already see the changes in our feedback, especially with guests mentioning how welcome they feel. But I also want you to know that leadership isn't just about the good days. It's about how we handle the hard moments, the setbacks. Hannah nodded, taking in each word. Thank you, Valerie. I feel like I'm learning so much, but there are still times I worry about letting you down. Valerie leaned forward, her expression reassuring. You have an innate ability to connect with people, Hannah. That's something I can't teach. It's something you bring naturally. Just remember, leadership is a journey. Mistakes will happen, but those are just opportunities to learn. Trust yourself, and trust that you're here for a reason. Hannah smiled, a newfound confidence shining in her eyes. Valerie's mentorship was more than just training. It was a gift, a chance to build a legacy of kindness and empathy that would resonate far beyond the hotel walls. One day, Valerie approached Megan after a morning meeting. She had observed Megan's transformation with quiet pride, noting the changes in her demeanor and the genuine warmth she now showed toward guests. It was clear Megan had taken her role as an opportunity to grow, and Valerie felt it was time to acknowledge her progress. Megan, can I have a word with you in my office? Valerie asked, her tone inviting but serious. Megan nodded, following Valerie to her office with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Once seated, Valerie gave her a thoughtful look, allowing a moment of silence to settle between them. Megan, Valerie began, I've noticed the effort you've been putting into changing your approach. You've shown real growth, and I believe that deserves recognition. What you're doing isn't easy, and I want you to know it hasn't gone unnoticed. Megan's eyes widened with surprise, a blush creeping into her cheeks. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I've realized how wrong I was, and I'm committed to doing better. This place means more to me now than it ever did. Valerie smiled, her expression warm. I can see that, and I want you to continue building on this new path. As of today, I'm promoting you to a guest relations position. You'll work directly with Hannah on service initiatives, helping to ensure every guest feels welcome. Megan's jaw dropped, her eyes glistening with gratitude. Thank you so much, Mrs. Johnson. I promise I won't let you down. Valerie nodded, her expression full of pride. I believe in you, Megan. Just remember, growth is a continuous journey. Keep learning, keep empathizing, and keep bringing your best to the role. As Megan left the office, she felt a surge of motivation. Her mistakes were not forgotten, but they had become lessons, tools for growth. And now, with Valerie and Hannah's guidance, she felt ready to make a lasting difference. In the weeks that followed, Valerie's vision continued to shape the hotel's culture. Under her guidance and Hannah's supportive leadership, the staff embraced a new approach to guest relations. Every interaction was guided by the principles of empathy and respect, and the impact was evident in the guests' experiences. One evening, Valerie stood in the lobby, quietly observing as guests checked in and interacted with the front desk staff. She watched as Megan greeted a family with children, her demeanor warm and attentive, going out of her way to make sure they had everything they needed for a comfortable stay. The parents exchanged grateful smiles, clearly taken by the genuine care they'd received. At the same time, Hannah assisted an elderly couple, providing a personalized welcome package with information on the best places to dine and local attractions. The couple thanked her with beaming smiles, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gesture. Valerie's heart swelled with pride. This was her vision come to life. A hotel that was more than just a place to stay. It was a haven where people felt seen, respected, and valued. She knew that with leaders like Hannah and staff like Megan, her hotel would continue to flourish. The day finally came when Valerie decided it was time to step back from her daily oversight of the hotel. She gathered her staff for a meeting, her presence calm but impactful as she addressed the team one last time. Each of you has shown me the strength and dedication it takes to make this place truly special, she began, her gaze sweeping over the room. We've had challenges, but through them, we've grown together. My hope is that the values we've built here will continue, that each of you will carry forward the legacy of kindness, respect, and empathy. She paused, her eyes meeting those of Hannah and Megan, who stood side by side, both women embodying the very heart of Valerie's mission. Hannah, you've been a beacon of kindness, a reminder of why I started this journey. I know that under your guidance, this hotel will only continue to grow in the right direction. Hannah nodded, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. Thank you, Valerie. I'm honored to carry forward everything you've taught us. Valerie then looked at Megan, a gentle smile spreading across her face. And Megan, your journey has been one of the most inspiring transformations I've seen. You've shown resilience, humility, and an unwavering commitment to grow. I am proud of the leader you're becoming. Megan's expression softened, her pride evident. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I couldn't have done it without you and Hannah. This place has changed me in ways I never expected. With those parting words, Valerie left the meeting, knowing she was leaving her hotel in capable hands. She felt fulfilled, knowing that her vision for a place of warmth, kindness, and inclusivity was alive and thriving. Several weeks after Valerie stepped back from daily management, the hotel had fully embraced its new culture. Reviews began pouring in from guests who praised the warm, inclusive atmosphere and the genuine connections they felt with the staff. Under Hannah's leadership as the assistant to the CEO, the hotel had become more than just a place to stay. It was an experience defined by empathy, personal touches, and unforgettable service. Megan, now an essential part of the guest relations team, led daily check-in meetings with a new level of confidence. She welcomed feedback from her peers, valuing each suggestion as a chance to improve. Her focus had shifted entirely from herself to the guests' experiences, and her growth was evident not only in her interactions, but in the influence she had on her fellow staff. In the main lobby, framed photos of Valerie and the founding moments of the hotel hung proudly on the wall, a reminder of the legacy that had set the foundation for this transformation. Beneath it was a new mission statement, crafted with input from the staff, a home for all, where every guest finds belonging. Hannah would often stand before that statement during quiet moments, her heart filled with gratitude. She knew the words were more than a promise to guests. They were a guide for every action, every interaction, and every new staff member who walked through the hotel doors. One afternoon, Megan was tasked with handling a challenging guest, a corporate executive named Mr. Billings. He arrived late, appearing tense and visibly annoyed, his voice sharp as he checked in. The reservation system had encountered an error. and the suite he'd booked was accidentally double-booked. Megan felt a pang of nervousness as she approached Mr. Billings. In the past, she might have avoided such a situation, preferring to hand it off to a manager. But now, with the training and support she'd received from Hannah and Valerie, she felt ready. Mr. Billings, I apologize for the inconvenience. It appears there was an error in our system, she explained calmly. We don't have your suite available tonight, but I'd like to offer you a complimentary upgrade to one of our executive suites and a voucher for our restaurant. He looked at her skeptically, clearly annoyed. And how does that solve the fact that I'll be late for an important meeting in the morning? Megan took a deep breath, staying focused. I understand, and I'll make sure everything is ready for you in the morning to help you make up for lost time. I'll arrange a car service to get you to your meeting on time, and will prepare any additional services you need. Her calm, empathetic response surprised Mr. Billings. After a pause, his shoulders relaxed slightly, and his tone softened. Thank you. I appreciate the effort. As Megan watched him head toward his upgraded suite, she felt a surge of pride. She had faced a difficult situation with composure, empathy, and a solution-oriented mindset, qualities she'd worked hard to develop. This moment felt like a true test of her growth, and she knew she'd passed. Inspired by Valerie's leadership and her own experiences, Hannah proposed a new initiative, a guest experience training program designed to teach staff about empathy, respect, and problem-solving in high-stress situations. She shared her idea with Valerie during one of their check-in calls, explaining how the program could empower staff to create positive, memorable interactions. Valerie was thrilled by the proposal. Hannah, that's exactly the kind of forward-thinking leadership we need. Your experiences, your challenges, they've shaped you into someone who understands the heart of hospitality. I believe this program will help every member of our team connect with our guests on a deeper level. With Valerie's support, Hannah launched the program, which began with small workshops where staff practiced real-life scenarios and discussed how to approach each one with empathy and patience. Megan joined the workshops as a co-facilitator, sharing her personal journey of change with new hires, recounting how learning to see guests as individuals had transformed her entire outlook on her role. The program was an immediate success. Staff engagement rose and guest satisfaction soared as employees embraced the new approach, recognizing that their roles went beyond transactions. They began to see themselves as part of something bigger, a community where every action, every smile, every act of kindness contributed to the hotel's mission. Several months later, Valerie returned to the hotel for a quiet, unannounced visit. This time she didn't hide her identity, though she kept her presence discreet. She wanted to observe the changes from the perspective of a proud mentor, eager to see the impact of her team's efforts. As she walked through the lobby, Valerie noted the new vibrancy. The front desk was a hub of friendly smiles and genuine conversation. Guests were greeted with warmth, their needs anticipated with care. The atmosphere radiated with the heart of hospitality she had always envisioned, a true reflection of the values she'd instilled. She made her way to the lounge, where she found Hannah and Megan in deep discussion over new guest initiatives. They didn't notice her at first, engrossed in brainstorming ways to make the upcoming holiday season special for families staying at the hotel. When Hannah finally looked up and saw Valerie, her face lit up with joy. "Valerie! It's wonderful to see you." Megan turned and, seeing Valerie, immediately stood, her face a mix of excitement and gratitude. "Miss Johnson, welcome back," she said with a genuine smile. Valerie joined them, her pride evident. "You two have created something extraordinary here. This place, it feels like a home." Hannah's eyes sparkled. "That's all because of you, Valerie. Your guidance, your belief in us, it's what made all of this possible." Valerie placed a hand on both of their shoulders. "You've made me proud, both of you. What you've built here is more than just a successful hotel. It's a testament to what true hospitality can accomplish." Megan looked down, a shy smile on her face. "Thank you for believing in me, Mrs. Johnson. I didn't always make it easy." Valerie shook her head, smiling. "Megan, growth isn't easy for anyone. What matters is that you embrace the journey. And that's something very few people are brave enough to do. You've both proven that kindness and resilience are powerful forces. The three women shared a quiet moment, a bond of mutual respect and shared vision connecting them. Valerie knew that her legacy was safe with Hannah and Megan, and that the hotel would continue to flourish under their leadership. Before leaving, Valerie gathered the staff for one last meeting. She stood before them, her expression warm and full of gratitude. When I first came here undercover, I wasn't sure what I would find. I saw challenges, yes, but I also saw potential. Each of you has risen to that potential. And you've created a place where everyone can feel at home, she began, her voice filled with pride. I may not be here every day, but know that I carry each of you in my heart. This hotel, this team, it represents everything I dreamed of when I started this journey. I am leaving it in good hands, confident that you will continue to carry the torch of respect, empathy, and hospitality. She turned to Hannah and Megan, her eyes soft. Hannah, you've been a guiding light, and Megan, your growth has been an inspiration. Together, you embody the heart of this hotel. Thank you for making it what it is. Applause filled the room, and Valerie knew her work was complete. Her legacy would live on through the kindness and dedication of her team. The hotel a sanctuary for all who sought warmth and welcome. Months passed, and the hotel flourished. Guest reviews highlighted the unique experience of staying in a place where the staff truly cared, where each person was valued. The guest experience training program became a cornerstone, replicated across the chain, and soon the other hotels followed suit, adopting the values that Valerie had set forth. Hannah's leadership blossomed, and she took on greater responsibilities within the company, her influence growing as she spread Valerie's vision to new locations. Megan continued to thrive in her role, often mentoring new hires and sharing her own story of change to inspire them. She had found a true calling in her work, each interaction a chance to create the warm, welcoming environment she once took for granted. And Valerie, though semi-retired, remained a guiding presence, visiting the hotel often, her quiet pride evident as she watched her dream unfold. The hotel had become a place of unity, a place where each guest, from every walk of life, could feel at home. The hotel's new tagline, proudly displayed across the entrance, read, "A legacy of kindness, a home for all." And as guests walked through those doors, they experienced that legacy firsthand, finding comfort in a place that truly cared. If you enjoyed this journey of transformation, growth, and kindness, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We have more inspiring stories just like this one, filled with heart, hope, and valuable life lessons. Join us as we explore more tales that make a difference. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.